$65 million. That's what it costs to improve the accuracy of a poll by one single percentage point. And I can prove it. Somebody's going to watch this video and type in the comments 554 people is not enough. And by the end, you are going to be the one to explain to them why they're wrong. In fact, I dare you to watch this whole thing and try not to explain it to someone. So, here's what happened. We commissioned a professional poll of Indiana voters on the Mid-States corridor. 554 randomly selected voters, conducted by Public Policy Polling, a nationally recognized firm, and the results were overwhelming. But someone left a comment. They wrote, and I quote, 554 out of 4.7 million registered voters. That is 0.00017%. And they called it a scam. Now, I'm not going to make fun of that person. If you've never studied how sampling works, of course, that number sounds absurd. It sounds like we asked a handful of people at a gas station and called it science. But here's what I love about that comment. They did the math. They actually divided 554 by 4.7 million. That tells me they care about getting it right. They just don't have the full picture yet. And actually, there's a small math error in that comment that kind of proves the point. They wrote 0.000117%. But if you divide 554 by 4.7 million, you get 0.000118. That's the decimal, not the percentage. To get the percentage, you multiply by 100. The actual percentage is 0.012%, 100 times larger than what they wrote. They did the hard part right. They just forgot the last step. And look, we've all made that mistake. But it illustrates the point. The math of sampling is counterintuitive, and it's easy to get tripped up if you haven't worked with it before. So today, I'm going to give them the full picture, and I'm going to give it to you too, because by the end of this, you're going to understand something that will change how you see every poll, every medical test, and every statistic for the rest of your life. And the math does not care about your feelings or mine. So let's get into it. Let me start with something everyone already understands, even if they don't realize it yet. You're making a big pot of soup, a huge pot, enough for 100 people. You've been cooking it for hours. You want to know if it needs more salt. What do? Do you eat the entire pot to find out? Of course not. That's insane. You stir it up and you taste one spoonful. One. And that spoonful tells you everything you need to know. Not because you tasted the whole pot, but because the soup is well stirred. That's polling. The pot is Indiana. The spoon is 554 voters. The stirring is the methodology that makes sure your spoonful is representative of the whole pot. Now you might be thinking, the soup isn't uniform. There are carrots and peas and potatoes. What if my spoonful is all broth and no potatoes? Great question. And that's exactly what professional pollsters think about. You have the recipe. You know how much of each ingredient went in. In polling terms, we know Indiana's demographics, the age breakdown, the geographical spread, the partisan mix. We have the recipe. So if your spoonful comes up heavy on carrots and light on peas, you adjust. Pollsters call this weighting. You check your spoonful against the recipe and make sure it's right. That's what makes this a representative sample. The person who said 554 out of 4.7 million is too small, they're arguing you need to eat the entire pot of soup to know if it needs salt. But we're just getting started. The next analogy is one you've already trusted with your life. You go to the doctor. They check your cholesterol. The nurse draws a vial, maybe 2 tablespoons. Your body has about 1.5 gallons of blood. That sample is about 1 0.5%. Should your doctor demand that you drain all your blood just to be sure? Obviously not. That would kill you. And more importantly, it's completely unnecessary. But here's something interesting, and my wife gets credit for this one. When the doctor orders blood work, they tell you to fast, sometimes. Why? Because they want a representative sample of your normal state. If you just ate a stack of pancakes, your blood sugar's through the roof, and the results won't represent how your body actually works. That's exactly what pollsters do. They make sure the sample represents the normal state of the population, the right mix, the right conditions. Just like your doctor wants blood that represents your actual health, not your breakfast. And here's a fun fact that flips the whole criticism on its head. A blood draw of 2 tablespoons is about 0.5% of your blood. Our Dubois County poll of 636 voters was 2% of the voter population. The poll sample was 4 times larger proportionally than the blood tests your doctor uses to make life or death decisions. Nobody calls a blood test a scam. And one more thing, a blood test is a snapshot. If you change your diet, your next test looks different. That doesn't mean the first test was wrong. It was accurate at the time. Polling is the same. Our poll tells you what voters thought on February 20th and 21st. It's a snapshot, not a prophecy. Accurate when taken. Okay, so I've given you 2 analogies, and I know what some of you are thinking. Show me the money. All right, let me show you the money. The critics say, do not trust a sample. Ask everyone. Okay, the United States already tried it, and it's called the census. The 2020 census counted every single person in America. It cost $14.2 billion, about $96 per household. Indiana has roughly 2,775,000 households. Indiana's share of the census cost, approximately $266 million. Our poll cost $9,000. That's not 29 times more. It's 29,000 times more. Our poll gives you 96% certainty. The census gives you 100%. So are you paying 29,000 times more to go from 96 to 100%? $65 million per point. Every percentage point of improvements costs about $65 million per point. And that $65 million is being generous. The real cost is exponential. Each fraction of a percent costs more than the last. Going from 99 to 100 is astronomically expensive. I'm not turning this into a math lecture, but 65 million actually understates it. If that number just blew your mind, drop 65 million in the comments. I want to see how many people made it to this part. But I'm not here to trash the census. The census is essential, worth every penny. But here's the irony the critics miss. The census gives you the recipe. Remember the chunky soup? The census is how we know what Indiana looks like. That $266 million creates the blueprint that makes a $9,000 poll accurate. They're not competitors. They're partners. You do the expensive thing once a decade, then you use it for years. So if someone asks all 4.7 million voters, they're saying, throw away the $266 million recipe and start from scratch. Every single time. That's not a serious argument. And here's the part that really surprises people. The accuracy depends on the sample size. The population size barely matters at all. The population size barely matters. Think about the soup. Whether the pot holds 10 gallons or 10,000 gallons, a well-stirred spoonful tells you the answer. 554 is 554 whether you're polling Indiana, California, or the entire United States? And I don't want you to just take my word for it. Let me show you the actual numbers. With our sample of 554, the margin of error for Dubois County with 30,000 voters more or less is plus or minus 4.13%. For all of Indiana with 4.7 million voters, plus or minus 4.16%. For the entire United States with over 168 million voters, plus or minus 4.16%. The difference between polling Indiana and polling the entire country is 0.2 of a percentage point. That's nothing. The population could be 100 times bigger, and it would make essentially zero difference. The sample size is what matters. Full stop. Now, if polling were a scam, someone would have noticed by now. Every presidential campaign uses polls. Every Fortune 500 company uses market research with the same methodology. The FDA approves drugs based on trials of a few thousand people. Your doctor uses 2 tablespoons of blood. TV ratings are based on 40,000 households representing 130 million. Either all of them are running a scam or sampling works. You pick. Now, I want to talk directly to somebody thinking, nobody called me. How do I know my voice is in there? You are already represented, even if no one dialed your number. The pollsters know what Indiana looks like. They build a sample to include people who match your profile. Your age, your region, your political background, their answers stand in for yours. And the proof is in the data. Opposition is overwhelming across every group, men and women, young and old, Trump voters and Harris voters, every media market. There's no hidden pocket of support. The opposition is everywhere. So if nobody called you, relax. People like you said the same thing everyone else said. Now let me show you what we found. You understand why you can trust the numbers, so let them hit you. 65% of Indiana voters oppose the Mid-States Corridor. Only 11% support it. Should the $1.1 billion go to the Mid-States Corridor or to the 400 canceled road and bridge projects? 88% said local roads. 3% said the Mid-States Corridor. 3. Should the state respect local opposition? 85% said yes. Should the legislature override a veto? 74% said yes. Even if we're off by the full margin of error, opposition still outnumbers support 4-1. The margin of error does not change the story. And these match our Dubois County poll, where 81% of local voters opposed. 2 polls, 2 samples, the same overwhelming answer. If you think the legislature should listen, hit the like button now. Let's see if people watching match the poll. Now, I welcome people questioning our poll. Skepticism is healthy, but there's a difference between a sincere question and calling something a scam because you don't understand it. That's like watching the nurse draw 2 tablespoons of blood and saying, "That's not enough blood. This is a scam." You wouldn't do that because you trust the medical profession knows what it's doing. Public policy polling is nationally recognized. Questions used NDOT's own numbers. Full results are public. So if you see someone in the comments saying the sample's too small, be kind. But now you have the tools. Soup, blood test, and $65 million a point. You've got this. So, let me bring this home. We paid $9,000 to ask a scientifically selected sample what they think. The results were not close. They match everything we hear at every town hall, every community meeting, every conversation. The question is not whether 554 people is enough. The math settled that decades ago. The real question is, are your elected officials listening? Right now, 65% say cancel it. 88% say fix our roads. 74% say override the veto. These aren't close calls. These are instructions from the people to their government. I'm running for state senate in District 48 because I believe data over gut feelings. I believe you don't get to spend $1.1 billion on a project that saves 2 or 3 minutes and is opposed by virtually everyone it affects just because some people in Indianapolis decided it was a good idea. I believe in listening. And right now, Indiana is speaking very clearly. Thanks for watching. Share it with one person. Send it to anyone confused about polling. Full results are linked below. I'm Brad Hochgesang, and that was the $65 million question.